There we go. I'm going to take an absolute flyer. I've got some kind of memory of you being a Liverpool fan. Is that, am I making that up?
Well, no, I
Right.
actually do like Liverpool.
Ah, right. Okay. I thought so. I don't know why. The reason I bring it up is because the Champions League final kicks off in not very long, which is obviously Liverpool against Real Madrid. And yeah, for some reason I was thinking, I don't know. I like, do I remember seeing you a Liverpool shirt? Did we have a conversation about football or something?
Well, not just that fact that I roll with a big old gang of Liverpudlian Scouse brothers and sisters,
True. Yeah,
but
there is that.
also, yeah, I was turned on to Liverpool about maybe 88, 89,
Right.
and I guess there was such passion and such love for that team, and I was kind of new to the UK, to Britain.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to get caught up in that love, and I'll never walk alone.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's tribal. It's full on, it's full on tribal.
Right. And I do know people from Liverpool that are Evertonians,
Right,
and
yeah.
it's a little, I know it tastes a little bit funny that I'm like, I love Liverpool. They're like, why not Everton? Well, why, Scotty? What's wrong with the blue?
Oh yes,
But
you're clearly a
everyone's a
man
real
who has
good
spent
sport.
time in the UK.
Yeah.
So look, anyway, tangents aside, congrats on the album, dude. I mean, last time we
Oh, thank
spoke,
you.
with the EP was out, but now you've got the album out, you've been playing gigs. Talk to me, man. It must feel awesome.
It's really nice, for one thing, to be able to have that off the plate and be done with it, because it really was a long time in the writing and recording process.
Yeah.
And the album, it has, its amount of songs on it, but we have like double that amount of songs that we didn't record, and or for various reasons, that really, after so many years of not writing together, it took us a while to get to be able to do to get into the, like, how do we do it together, what's the process.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in lots of other bands, and the other guys too, different processes with different bands. Sometimes you write
Yeah.
music and then you write lyrics to the music. Sometimes you write a song with the lyrics completely written out, and you have melodies, and you come up with the music afterwards. There's all these.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a cross of both. You might have part of it, and then you need to create the other part to write the melodies to put on the vocal, and the most important part, the vocal.
Uh, Obviously. So
So we agree.
that's why yeah, that's why we always go on last. That's why the vocals are the last. They save the best till last.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So we're in agreement. That's good.
Oh, come on, it's the vocalists union here, isn't it?
That's right, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. But also for that same reason, you're under a lot of pressure, as somebody once said to me. Right, it's just up to you to. It's everyone else has delivered. It's just up to you to sprinkle a bit of metal magic over this now. And I was like, oh, no pressure, thank you.
Well, that's how they put it over there. Sprinkle a little metal madness. For here, it's like, just now it's up to you to sell the emotion of what I'm trying to convey. If I'm doing, one of Danny's songs or something, it's like, so this is the feeling that I want to get across. And you
Right.
have to bridge the emotional gap between audience and band standing, on the stage, or, in your listening environment and in your house, could be.
Yeah.
But definitely live is where it's at, because I know, your band, great recordings, great songs, but really you need to see Acid Rain live to fully get what's going on, and the songs make sense and everything
Yeah.
makes sense, because there's so much of a intense live show, I guess you'd say. It's like a lot of energy in
Yeah.
presentation of the tunes and your
Yeah.
band in general, and just H as a man.
Oh, stop it. I'm supposed to be interviewing you. And all of that is like, I'd say about Mordred as well, because like live, those songs, especially when when you play the old stuff, it's like, they've grown and morphed there's room in parts of the song that there never used to be. And, you it's all about the life, isn't it? Ultimately.
It really ultimately is.
That's
But
why we record.
but the recording part for me is actually where I dig in and get down. I did a lot of years of working in recording studios. So
Right.
I have a lot of, so it's the same as if you were a chef, or, you used to be a chef, but now you're not, but now you're doing some sort of cooking event, or, say you used to be a contractor, a carpenter, or whatever, and you're building something from this knowledge that you had, but you may not be currently a contractor. So it's, for me, it's just like I get so much love and enjoyment out of being a musician during the time of the recordings. So it's,
Right.
I love like all the little weird things that you add that become off,
Yeah.
panned off here and there
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
recording. And
Well, yeah,
you
we
know,
always say that the stuff that only 5% of people will notice. But
yeah, but
when but
every little sprinkle of the dust that you're talking about,
yeah.
yeah, it's fairy dust for you. It's voodoo dust for us. We get it from Marie Laveau down in New Orleans, and she sends some graveyard dirt and some voodoo dust, and we just sprinkle that right on there.
I bet you do as well. I'm yeah, I mean, it's funny you should say that. It's fairy dust for us. It's voodoo dust for you. Don't you think it? Don't you find it? Oh, this is going to sound awkward, isn't it? It's really rewarding when you meet, inverted commas, a fan, a listener, a follower, and they go, oh, on that song, I love that stuff that you've got, like you've buried down there, and
Oh man,
you're
I
like,
love that.
dude, that
It makes
it
it
was
all
there
worth
for
it, doesn't
you.
it?
Yeah, doesn't it? If what just one person.
Well, let's not lie though. It's there for us. It's
Yeah.
there for our we as I guess like writers and recorders. I don't know. We have to keep it interesting and fun for ourselves. And so if we can do anything clever, you know,
Yeah.
you don't want to be too clever because that could wreck a song too. But you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. You have to have
Absolutely.
something
Yeah.
that makes you excited about playing the song, because like I was saying, we have to not sell it, but we have to convey the emotion that the song is trying to bring across.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what's up.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I really enjoyed that the studio part of that, where it's you're getting in the mindset of of a song, and it's about making sure that the themes are right, that your approach is right, and
And
often
the delivery too, right? I mean,
well,
there's
that's
different ways you can
yeah,
deliver something. And I actually, that record that we were talking about, the Dark Parade, I recorded it. I had it all done. Danny had gone somewhere because he and I were doing it together, doing all the overdubs together. We just did the drums in a studio. So everything else, basically on Danny's laptop, we recorded everything.
right,
So he had left his laptop with me for a weekend, I think, or a few days, whatever it was. And my brother-in-law came over. We had been using these old Neve preamps that had been taken out of a board.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
he brought over this compressor, and I was not compressing to tape or compressing to the Pro Tools machine.
yeah,
Um, and I did one track with, I think I had most of it done, one track I did, and I did it with this compressor. And I was
yeah,
like, oh shit, I have to record the whole record over again now.
yeah.
So when Danny comes home, he's like, oh, oh, you did a new vocal on this one. Okay. And then he goes to the next song and goes, oh, you did a new. I basically recorded the whole record again.
Wow.
Just
Wow.
because I was like, I really like how this compressor is going down. And so so I was really, able to kind of tweak with what I wanted to do. And when
Yeah.
you get to be able to do that, you can kind of test out like, oh, maybe I want to sing this sort of more like Elvis, more like James Brown, more like, I mean, not like I'm going to be able to imitate either of those two, but you kind of have a style that you're going for, kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Or Phil Lynott would be my
Yeah.
other big, go-to kind of, um, you know, emulating that
Yeah.
sound. I mean, to me, that's the greatest hard rock band of all time, and I know that says a lot because there are some great ones, but it's the whole package. It's the I'll start off with what I think it's the vocals, it's the songwriting, the lyrics, the delivery of the lyrics, and of course the guitar, the bass, and then the personality of Phil
Yeah.
delivering everything. But the songwriting is just, I'm really, really respectful of David Bowie, Robert Smith. There's just some great, great songwriters, and Phil Lynott is a true troubadour.
Well, I have to say that I've got to pick you up on one thing, and I've got to pick you up on this. Otherwise, this is to stop Danny kicking your ass. But
What's that?
you mentioned every member of Thin Lizzy except the drums.
Oh, pardon me.
Yeah.
Because without the drums as the foundation, and really, I mean, I spend every day hanging out with our drummer. We work
Yeah.
together, we
Yeah.
practice together, we're going to France together. I mean, pretty much like we
Drummers
just
and
go home to sleep.
singers, man. Drummers and singers, Lars and
Yeah,
James. You know, it is
yeah.
there's a definite connection because there's a kind of madness to what we both do. Do you know what I mean? It's like what we do and what drummers do. It's kind of fucking all over the place and up for interpretation.
Yes,
Yeah. But everybody else, whoa, you got your notes and you better play them. And if you play them even slightly wrong, it will suck.
that is
You know,
so true.
but
But really the drums sort of are in that category too, because
well,
they
keeping
have
the
to be a
rhythm, yeah,
certain, they have to do a certain thing every time or it'll throw off the whole machine.
yeah.
So, but there,
But
imagine like a lot of cogs in a machine. The drums are definitely that gigantic sprocket that runs, and then everything else runs off. The bass runs off that.
well, let's face it.
Guitars.
If a band is a house, right, then let's go. Drums are the foundations. Yeah, your guitars, your bass are your walls, your doors, your windows, and the singer's the roof. Because
I
without
was waiting for it. I'm like, what are we, bro?
yeah,
I love doing the analogy. So I mean, for me, it's like I'm waiting to. So what is the singer? No, we're like the windows and the paint.
with a
The
garden,
trim. We're the
yeah,
trim and.
yeah, with a rotten old shed at the end of the garden.
Oh shit! Yeah, we're where you park your car.
That's it. Yeah,
I love it.
and you got a compost heap at the end of the garden for ex-band members. You know, we don't we don't kick them out. We just recycle them.
Yeah, yeah. I like it. Well, hey, when you build this house, H, I will come. I will
I
come.
we will have two roofs.
Yes, sir.
So I looked at this picture of you on Instagram the other night. It appeared on my feed, and it's another band you do.
Right.
So a lot of people won't realize that. So I hope you don't mind, but I'm gonna put some. I'll probably put some shots of that you've put on Instagram. I'll put those out with the podcast because it's a whole different thing, isn't it?
H.
Thank you very much. Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing. As a youngster, I grew up listening to a lot of Western swing with my grandparents, and my grandfather was the first person to put a guitar in my hands
Can you
and
just
teach me.
can I just stop you there
Yeah.
for purely for my benefit because I'm from the UK. and a bit stupid. um,
Please,
where
because
what is Western swing?
oh, you don't know the okay, so um from the 30s, 40s into the 50s, there was a real big movement in the United States for swing music. Everything
Right,
from, you know, Tommy Dorsey all the way over. So the same style of music was done with a sort of a Western flair. So
right,
if you could
okay,
imagine like a sort of a Hank Williams kind of sound with, like more orchestrated, orchestral type thing, because there would be like clarinet, trumpet, piano, Hawaiian steel, and various like fiddle, maybe mandolin,
wow. That sounds
banjo,
like a
whatever.
real hybrid genre.
It is so they're playing like jump rhythms, um like you would hear Freddie Green, or like one of the players from back in the day, hitting in like Count Basie's, but they're doing these kind of rhythms with a sort of a Western flair to it.
Right,
So so the singing would be a little more or less like just for lack of people's understanding, like Hank Williams, although Hank would be considered more like folk music and Western swing.
right,
It's what led to rockabilly. One of the things that led to it, just like jazz led to soul music, you would say, or R&B. Um, that led to like your Elvis, Johnny Cash kind of era,
right.
which happened in like in the early 50s and stuff. So what happened was I grew up loving rockabilly and Western swing and early folk music like that through my Okie family side. Years later, my grandparents passed away. Years later, I was painting a house for a lady, Rhoda, and she came out the side of the house and she says, "Oh, I used to play in a band back in '48 and '50, and she said,
Wow.
I got a CD. You want to hear it?" And I'm like, "Pop it in, let's hear it."
Yeah, that's
And
how awesome is that?
it was really, really good. A lot of times people give you a CD. I'm not gonna lie, it's not always like mind-blowingly good, but
It's
this was like,
usually shitty. It's usually shitty.
I don't want to judge because everyone's vision can be different, and maybe I don't get it, but
Yeah,
I got this one. I was like, damn, this is some Hank Williams level kind of stuff. What are you doing with these songs? She's like, doing. You want to come
yeah,
upstairs and play them? And I'm like, yeah. So we started playing them, and I didn't fully understand the style when I first got the guitar in my hands, and I didn't play guitar. I played bass for many years, but I haven't played the guitar since I was a youngster.
yeah.
So she put the guitar in my hand, and she's 89 now. So this happened a couple of years ago.
Right.
And she hadn't played since the 80s. So she pulls out her Martin guitar, and I have, my little guitar, and we start going at it. And after a couple of times of playing together, I'm like, this is really, really good. So I got like my bro from high school that plays um, Doghouse bass, Hank. I called him up and I said, "Hey, come over. We gotta do this thing." He's like, "Okay, great." He brings his bass over and he's like, "Oh man, this is gonna be good." And we're like, "Rhoda, let's make a band." She's like, "Yeah, let's do it." So, I mean, long story short, we
Wow.
make this. She's got material from her brothers. Her brothers had passed away now, but they had recorded this stuff between 48 and 53 probably.
Yeah.
And they were the backup band for the Blackjack Wayne show, which is a TV show that happened around here in the 50s, where Johnny Cash would come on without his band. They would be the backup band.
Wow.
George Jones, whoever,
Yeah.
he was big at the time. So there was all this history. There was all these songs. So we just started playing, and Danny was second call I made. Danny White from Mordred, which
Yeah.
it seems strange, but Danny and I have gone off from Mordred and done a couple of different projects that were completely, completely out of the whole zone of Mordred. So back in the day, we had the Church of the Grand Funk when we played with these really, really incredibly good funk players, and we were just novices at the time, and it was good because that's how you learn how to
Yeah.
do something, and you don't you think that you could just jump off and do something and it's just going to sound like it great and real, but there even something that might be kind of simple has its nuances and has its flavors. And so with soul music over the years, it's taken a lot of years to be able to understand exactly the vibe and the flavors.
Yeah.
With the Western swing though, it was totally natural. And it was just like it happened very quickly, and then we just started writing our own songs that sound old-timey and kind of have a little bit of a gypsy jazz influence, which they didn't do that I heard so much in Western swing, but they were grabbing from the stuff that they might not have known that the gypsy jazz was happening because there was no internet back then. And so they
Yeah.
were grabbing locally from what they have, which was blues, of course, because coming from the South, um, picking styles and a lot of styles. I mean, and really, like most American folk music, it was invented by Black people.
Right. Yeah.
Even Western swing, because all the aspects of it existed, it was just assembled in a way and presented in a way that became country music later, but
Yeah.
much later.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't even hear that term till the 60s, I'd say, probably. Maybe late 50s, but
Right.
um and as you can tell by just the way I'm going off about the subject, it was a quick
Hey,
question. I have a
no,
real passion for it and a
yeah,
real
no, but
love for it, and
it's
I feel
great
like
though,
I'm
man.
carrying on a tradition that,
Yeah.
first of all, my grandfather who played also would be proud of, but it's just, this there are some great things about this country that we live in, and that's one of them is the
Yeah.
music and the
Yeah.
traditions, and a lot of the things, there's a lot of racist history in especially the United States in the South, but also poor people mixed it up on porches, and there was an exchange of ideas and picking styles
Yeah.
and chords and approach and flavor, and that is what became the beautiful kind of when the styles that came from
Yeah.
jazz, really.
Yeah.
Jazz, and I don't know if jazz or blues was first, because
But
blues
all
was created as a call and response from field workers from West Africa. But
but all of this is kind of like the perfect background to explain Mordred, because don't sound like anyone else, brought a bunch of different influences together. But also, I just wanted to pick up and go back on something you said earlier because it really resonated with me, and that was when you said carrying on um, a tradition that your grandfather had been doing, and I would imagine that is a really rewarding kind of feeling, because something like Mordred, putting myself in your shoes as a singer in a band, you're constantly looking to break the walls down and do something new and create things that are original, which is wonderful. But you're being a trailblazer, you're at the front of the queue, but and to get that reward of following in someone's footsteps and keeping something alive is almost like the opposite, but as just as a rewarding experience, but a different feeling, I would imagine.
now I haven't really thought about it like that, but you're pretty on point with the reason why Mordred sounds different is because we all individually have a lot of different musical influences. And you bring elements of everything to the table when you create something like for Mordred. For instance, the song The Dark Parade is a lot of sort of a New Orleans vibe,
Yeah.
kind of drum beat, and all the stuff built around it. Kind of, it's a little bit. like I was talking about, that early jazz kind of thing. And that it, it's just to be able to do that and to be able to express the feeling, because I know I keep going back to that, but really for me, the most important music is something that makes you feel something.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you want to cry, if you
Yeah,
want to feel, you know, happy and triumphant, or whatever your mood you're feeling or whatever, there is something like
absolutely, man.
for you.
Well,
And
that's why the biggest insult is when someone says, I'd never want somebody to say about my music, oh, it's all right. Oh,
or
it's
like,
okay.
I'm not really
It's like,
feeling that, dude.
yeah, I like hate it. That's fine. Love it. That's fine. But like a reaction, you know, any reaction is better than no reaction
Yeah, I hear
because that's
that. I think
feelings.
it's funny though. I don't know if you've come to this place, but we've been doing this for quite a while. You and I both.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
we've probably experienced many, not every disappointment you could imagine, but we've experienced a few disappointments. So, and we've heard it all in respect to ourselves and our band, and reviews, good and bad,
And our own particular skills. We
and our
both had plenty of people comment on
oh
those.
yeah, and like my own level of skills is often discussed as well. And but shit, where was I going with this?
I I what you were saying is that the whole the whole Mordred thing, is where we started, or that mixture of
Yeah,
all of those influences, and
that's my
everybody.
lawyer H right there, and he's going to be speaking for me from here forward. Okay, folks. He's got a lot more purdy words than I do.
um, but yeah, look, you were saying that like we've kind of had a lot of disappointments over the years. We've seen it, we've seen a lot of
Right,
stuff.
but there was a point I was going to make, and that's the
Oh, that's
problem
cool.
with don't
Well,
smoke weed, kids. Don't do it.
yeah, yeah, this is
Short
like
term.
it's two old guys struggle to keep each other in the same conversation.
Pretty much.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, I don't know what point you were going to make. But one thing,
Oh, I know what it was.
go for it.
We're gonna be in France at
Oh,
Hellfest
what?
on the 17th.
Oh,
That's the point of all
man.
that. Really wasn't, but
Look. Oh, are you? And is there any way that you're going to be able to play some shows around that? Is it,
no,
no?
no.
Yeah,
We talked about it, and
yeah,
then we were just like, um, let's have a vacation. Let's just go over there and play and hang out in France, and bring our wives, and
lovely. What a
you
great
know,
idea. What a
make it
great
a
idea.
thing. We had talked about playing a show in Paris with Seething and Akira. They were going to actually just meet us down there, and we're going to have dinner, and probably get chucked out of France after we're done. Because those guys are pretty rowdy, and the
Yeah.
Mordred guys are, for our age, we still cut it up like we were their age.
You see, you're still holding up your end.
Yeah, you get the full experience with us. It's the full on live show, and then afterwards the pub and the Jamesons.
Absolutely, yeah. I've seen this. I've seen this, take place. So he's telling the truth,
It
viewers,
becomes a
listeners,
spectacle.
ever so slightly. Yeah, ever so slightly. But you've been getting out on the road, and playing some shows for the Dark Parade, which is,
Yeah,
I'm so pleased
feels
for you.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
it feels really good. And when you play these, like we're playing like festivals here and there,
yeah,
when you play them, you always expect that, we throw in a couple of or more than a couple songs off our new record. You
yeah,
always expect people to be like, I just wanted to hear record one, maybe one or two songs off record two, definitely nothing
yeah.
off of the EP. And then what are you doing throwing these new songs on there? What? But when we played them, people actually commented on the fact that we were playing them, like, that's weird that you played that one, it's so great to hear it live. And because we played the Dark Parade, which seems
Yeah,
kind of like, how do you do that live? But we
yeah.
do. And for me, I'm like, it's weird, I don't know how are people going to react, but people seem to like it. So
Well, look, I've got to be honest with you. I was interested, like, because you were obviously like mimicking the kind of thing that you hear a lot, which is like, first album, yay, second album, EP, pff. And I'd like to say that as somebody who was a fan of yours from the first album, I thought you got better and better. I think This Life absolutely kicks the ass out of the first album. And then the EP, I was like, okay, this is slightly different, but this is really, really cool. I'm all in for where this goes next. So as a listener, I had the same arc as the band, you know, whereas I think a lot of people who were bang into thrash got into the first album, and it's like I could see who you but I could I knew what kind of band you were from the first album. The second album didn't surprise me in the least. Do you know what I mean? It was
Right.
like, yeah, cool,
Yeah.
that makes absolute sense. Whereas for some people, it was like, what the fuck is this? This isn't metal.
Yeah. Well, at the time where we live, a lot of the bands were really taking on the Metallica sound, and we even are definitely have that influence with the the guitars and a lot of the aspects of it. But what we respected about that particular band most was they were original. They kind of created that sound, and
Yeah,
then it became a sound and lots of other people did it. And I'm not knocking anybody, because actually I love some of the bands that came after Metallica even more than what I did. And then after a certain point I kind of fell off with Metallica even too. I got just interested in a lot of other stuff and just kind of sort of forgot about it. But what I loved about them, and what I think inspired Mordred, was that we were always looking to create our own thing.
yeah,
Like, we were
yeah,
influenced a lot. The let's face it, the thrash metal thing really was born because punk rock was dying out, and all the punks came over to this new kind of like thrash metal thing, speed metal, whatever it was at the time, and brought with them a lot of I don't know how to describe it exactly, but just mannerisms maybe, where it was more about less about the uniform and more about the individuality of what you were doing.
yeah,
So that was just a theme constantly. And also, like, things like, you don't dress up in spandex and put on all these outfits for your show. You wear what you would wear every day.
yeah.
And I know you wear a suit with pink shorts and a pink top every day, so
I've only ever worn that once, you cheeky fucker. But I know what you mean. It was really appealing back in the day. Like seeing bands, like for instance, we always said Metallica's image was having no image.
right.
It was like because they wore the same shit we did. And it's like the fact that it was like the ripped jeans and like as in ripped, as in they're fucked, as in that's not a
As in
design, you know?
like, you don't have $5, because that's what it was back in the day, to buy a
Yeah,
damn pair of jeans, or you just didn't
yeah,
care, or you slept over and that's what's happened. But
yeah,
the thing about that was that you didn't dress up and try and be something that you're not. I don't know how to. There wasn't there was a uniform for sure. It was the leather jacket, the white high tops, the peg pants.
yeah,
So you were kind of like that, but it was kind of like taken from the Ramones. That
yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing, and
Good call. Good call. Yeah.
The Ramones were still playing at the time, so we could actually go see them play. And they were playing like every year. We'd go see them
Oh
play. I'd
no.
seen them a bunch of times. I love them. And like, the Ramones was a huge influence on thrash metal. So
Yeah.
was, like the Dead Kennedys for sure was a
Oh hell
big
yeah.
influence
But
on the
they were a
sound.
big influence on me, the Dead
Mhm.
Kennedys. Real big influence. Well, that's where I stole the album Moshkinstein from. You know, Frankenchrist. So they'd taken
Oh,
so it was like, okay, they took the front half of Frankenstein. So they took Franken, I'll take Stein. you know, and chucked mosh on the, you know, moshkins,
I
and there you
see.
go. Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's fucking
Oh,
brilliant.
it was robbery. It was fucking robbery, is what
No,
it
no,
was.
it's not. That's inspiration. See,
Jet,
there's a
jet.
difference between plagiarism and inspiration.
Yeah,
And if
true.
you straight like Lenny Kravitz, he plagiarized a lot of shit. Like you could listen to his songs and be like, oh, that's Earth, Wind and Fire. Oh, that's Stevie Wonder, Superstitious. He straight lifted stuff. But and he made it okay to do that. After he did that, a lot of people did that. But
I just like to say to my lawyers that that is Scott Holderby of Mordred saying all of that, not me.
yeah, so inspiration is not a liable offense. You can be inspired, and they've even gone insofar as to say you can trademark licks, you can
Yeah,
trademark lyrics, but you can't trademark any kind of musical notes or chords because they've all been played before, because there's
yeah,
only a finite amount of notes on a guitar. So you're somewhere in between there. So yeah, you're creating something new, but you're building on the foundation of what's come before you for, good 100 years on us.
yeah, yeah.
So thrash metal was 100 years of building
There you
to
go.
get to that,
Yeah,
to get to something so heavy. And I think it also appealed, punk rock and thrash metal appealed to me because you frightened the general public. It wasn't
yeah,
something that like was accepted. You see stupid like elements of it on TV or on movies from back in the day where they kind of took things from the style, but they did not understand what they were doing. Nobody had a clue what was really going on. And to be a part of that, it's kind of like the Western swing thing. We all created something that is now a traditional style of music.
yeah.
And like, my kid plays it. He's doing something more on the punk side, but he's
Awesome.
carrying on tradition. And a lot of young people in our area are making thrash bands, and there's like a whole new scene going on of
Oh,
18 to
that's
22
cool,
year
man.
olds and punks too. They're reviving or creating their new version of, and it's kind of their kind of peace punks, which it makes me happy to see, which peace punk would be sort of a conflict and Flux of Pink Indians, Omega Tribe, and like the
Right. Yeah.
Crass bands, and you know, Discharge, I guess, would even qualify as that, and those kind of bands.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm really happy right now about what's going on because I can go and see my son's bands play, and like he just opened up for DOA, which I was
Oh
totally nerding,
man.
fanboying over. And
Yeah.
it's before the show, and I'm talking to Joey Shithead, and I bought War on 45 again on CD because I wore it out. I can't even find it anymore. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna buy it again. So I'm like, hey, dude, you want to sign this? And he's like, whatever. And then my son walks up and he goes, hey, Joey, that's my dad. And he goes, oh, that's your dad? He became a completely different person. And I'm like, oh, so now my kid gives me the little bit of clout that I might be
Yeah.
to get someone to talk to me.
Yeah. Basically, your kid's important. You're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I gotta, someone's gotta pay for the gas for him to get to the gig.
That's awesome, man. That is really cool. That is really cool.
Yeah.
Something you were saying earlier, I have to. It's been whirling around in my head for a while. When we were talking about the fairy dust and the and you were like, the voodoo. Um,
Yeah. The red powder.
yeah. Do you know what? That is a great way of summing up the vibe of the Dark Parade for me. Is that there is kind of like a sort of voodoo kind of vibe running all the way through it, from the artwork through not all of the songs but a few, so that kind of just influences the vibe of the whole piece. um
And
and
it's kind of a period piece in a way, and sort of a concept record. It's loosely, um, without being totally political about what's going on now. we find a lot of similarities about the last era of the robber barons, which was the turn of the last century. And so a lot of the inspiration and the motifs and the content in the songs, I guess, have a nod to, if not are completely, in that period. But I mean, I guess it sounds lame to say, but it's a metaphor for what's going on today with the second period of robber baronism, which I don't know if you experience it the way we do over here, but basically there's a wealth gap that's become so stark and glaring that really they've squeezed everyone below a certain money level and bled all of us to increase the wealth of the very, very few oligarchs, I guess you'd say. You hear all this talk on the news about the Russian oligarchs and this, but they never really say the American oligarchs or the British oligarchs. And well, let's face it, it's we're beyond oligarchy. We're in kakistocracy, which is that's actually a song lyric on the EP, but it's actually rule by the worst possible humans.
I remember actually, because I think we actually ended up discussing the word the last time you were on, because you were mighty pleased that you'd managed to cram that as a lyric, cram that into a lyric.
That's true. It's like, how do you throw kakistocracy in a
Yeah,
song?
yeah.
Well, you say fuck aristocracy.
Yeah, exactly.
Kakistocracy.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know what? You motherfucker, you made me go and look it up. Honestly, first time I heard that tune, I was like, because you know what it's like, as singers
Yeah.
and lyric writers, you're a word collector as well.
Yes.
And you
definitely.
hear a word and you're like, what the fuck?
And you're like, did he make that up? Because sometimes in rap music they make up things to rhyme.
Yeah, well, say it
And
again.
you're
What was
like,
it? Say it again. What was it?
kakistocracy
Now
with a
you
K.
see, the reason I had to look it up was because, as you may well know, one of the many words that we have for shit is cack.
Oh, that's right.
So a kakistocracy is a shitistocracy. It's just
So it's very, very similar, even in slang, to what I'm talking about.
yeah,
Kakistocracy.
yeah, shitistocracy,
That's
basically.
like scat opera.
Yes, there you
It's
go.
like
There you go.
that when they were talking about what is scat opera, and they'd be like, well, opera, something beautiful, and then scat, shit. So it's like shit opera.
Yeah. Well, look, I've got some questions from subscribers here that I want to that they'd like me to put to you.
Okay.
So here
All
we
right.
go. So first one is from Paul Hutchings, and Paul says, "Thanks, Scott, for a cracking album last year. The Dark Parade was on regular play after release. I'd like to ask a serious question. We've had
Thank
two.
you.
We've had two high-profile high deaths in the rock and metal community, which come on the back of a run of other musicians taking their own lives in recent years.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the pressures that are clearly a huge issue for many musicians?"
Well, I don't know how I deal with things necessarily, except I have a good family structure around me. My son is a musician. My wife, her brothers are musicians and studio engineers, and all the people in my adopted family and stuff. I have a lot of
Yeah,
support.
yeah,
So if I'm down or feeling down or whatever, or going through a hard time, it's noticeable to the people around me and they step in immediately and intervene. So having that is really good for me, and I'm lucky to have that. But it's legal now here in California, so I could just say that I'm an advocate for cannabis,
yeah,
and that's what we call it now. That's the
yeah.
the cool little legal thing. Back in the day, I sold weed. But now I'm an advocate for cannabis.
So by that, do you mean from a so that's helped with your mental health? Because I know, like,
Oh, most
weed can be
definitely.
attributed. Some people attribute it to weed to being, creating issues with mental health, but you used it
Oh,
to treat it.
yeah. Well, if you're not already crazy like I am legally, I don't know. I'm not saying, and I'm not any kind of medical professional prescribing anything. I'm just saying what has kept me very, you know, level all these years. And it also keeps you from like a drinking too much, which could be a big problem in this business.
Yeah, it's
uh
so
you know,
accessible.
every single night you're in a place, and every single night it's a new group of people that want to just hang out with you and
But
stuff.
but
And so
also but also every
take a
single
hit of
night
weed and you
it's
only take 2 shots of liquor instead of
yeah.
5 or
But
10 or
also
whatever.
every night it's a different venue, it's a different dressing room, and in that dressing room they put crates of drugs for you.
Mm,
It's booze, it's acceptable, it's
it
people.
is.
And yeah, that for me is the
And
is the
so
one you've got to really avoid.
I think the thing is with that is the knowing your dosage of anything, liquor included. And sure, there's a bottle of Jameson's in the room every night when you get done playing, and it's all in the amount that you ingest
Mhm.
and the amount of time that it takes. That you can do it and be level, but not everyone can do it. And that's why not everyone could be a touring musician too. There are so
Yeah,
many ways to fall off
yeah,
and so many traps to get caught in.
yeah,
And that having a good family and brotherhood, friend, bandmate situation is everything. And if you have struggles and stripes with individuals in your band, that just could lead to all sorts of dark feelings and bad
yeah,
things. And
yeah,
so I think what's nice, and I feel like you feel like this too, is that you and I both approach this in a similar way, in that we want to have fun
yeah,
and we want to have the people who come and see us have fun. That's the feeling. Like, of course you want to, oh, this is a sad song, oh, this is a triumphant song, or whatever the fuck it is, it doesn't
yeah,
matter. But
yeah,
you're having a good time, and the people who see you, like, oh my god, I haven't seen you in however long, and this was so great. You give everything, and it doesn't matter how, if it's 60 people or 600 people or 6,000,
yeah.
you're giving your all every night. And I respect that about you, and I try and
Thank
do
you.
that myself.
Yeah, and that's completely borne out by what I've seen as well. And I think as long as I think pressures on everybody from a mental health point of view, vary. Um, and Unfortunately, I don't think it's so much people in bands. I think it's people of an artistic nature who
No, you're
tend,
right.
you know,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
it's
It's
that it's the
it's an
overthinking. It's that
expression of
constant.
pain,
Yeah. It's
but
that constant battle.
sometimes being creative in whatever art form that you do is a way to express the pain that you have. And drugs are also the way to express pain, especially opiates. But
Well, mask pain. Yeah.
well, yeah, well, express, yeah, you're right, mask pain, you're right about that, yeah. But the cause would be the same, but yeah,
Yeah.
the effect is different. You can channel that same energy into a healthier form of expression, like music or art. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
unfortunately, I see in the world trouble and strife as a direct result of the loss of teaching music in schools. And children aren't growing up anymore understanding music. And even if you're not,
Yeah.
lost connection.
Yeah. That's sorry. It's my phone started talking to me for some reason.
Wanted to
Sorry.
get in there. Hi,
Sorry,
phone. we're
man.
not we're not
Yeah.
forgetting you. You
She's
can
yeah.
sell us something later.
It's Alexa feeling left out. So I've got another question here, and this one is from Carl. Now, Carl said, and he's quoting me at the start, which is quite uncomfortable for me to read. So just Howard recently said, "Uh-oh, here comes some
Oh no,
meaning. Here
what
comes some
shit did he talk?
here comes some meaningless rubbish." So Howard recently said, "You start out with big ideas. They don't always turn out the way you first thought, but you start out with big ideas." That's my quote. Mordred, I've never been shy of a big idea for a project. If money was no object, what big ideas would you put forward at the next band brainstorm?
Well, we would do a series of episodes of um, acting a fool, because
Right.
with an
Yes.
unlimited budget, and then included in that would probably be our next record, because we like to budget everything into our unlimited budget there.
Yeah. Yeah. Can
But
you could you explain to everybody who's not aware of what acting the fool is, what it what it is?
all right, so when COVID hit and everybody was locked down, and nobody could tour, nobody could play live, you were basically pretty much restricted to your house.
Yeah.
We and so a lot of our friends are in the movie business, and we're also home off work. So we were able to kind of put together a variety show that included comedians, and of course Mordred playing songs, but we also had like a burlesque dancer each time, giving us the art of burlesque, which is beautiful. And
Yeah.
we would do random sort of, I don't know if you call them skits or bits or what,
Sketches.
sketches. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did a couple of takeoffs on, film trailers. Like,
Yeah.
instead of taxi driver, it was Lyft driver, and our drummer Jeff was the Lyft driver, and it was kind of, that was the first one. And then we got a little more elaborate and did the unusual suspects. The
Right. Okay.
And then we did like a Reservoir Dogs kind of takeoff. It was dime bag dogs, because anything violent we turn into weed. So
Right.
instead of like
Okay.
a violent criminal act, it's like it becomes like a random stoner act.
Right.
So it's just our way of, like, we're trying to have fun with it,
Yeah.
and we do it to amuse ourselves and our friends. And I think that if I had an unlimited budget,
Yeah.
we would buy a spot and just have that set up so that we could just shoot that anytime we wanted to,
And
because that is really fun.
do you know what? Do you know what? That is so Mordred. It's like it's a cabaret. There's music. There's performers. There's burlesque. And you know what? I'm absolutely positive that if Acid Rain got together at our next brainstorm and we had an unlimited budget, it would just be, let's make a Jackass movie.
Yeah. Well, you actually were part of my inspiration in what
Oh,
I did
stop
on the
it.
show. No, because a lot of people might not know this about H, but he's a comedian as well. And when we were, I think it was either the first or the second show, I was like, please send me over that video that you just shot, where you guys were all like in the tub, and
Oh
and
God, yeah.
like in COVID times and stuff, and because we
Yes.
were all going through the same thing everywhere in the world together,
Yes.
and we were in communication, you and I, during
Yeah.
that time and everything. But that's when you really realize, like, appreciate the important things in life, because you never know what could come and take that away,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
And the thing is, and I really appreciate it because we kept our communication up over lockdown. And you came on, I started doing the Saturday night in with H, and you came on one week as a guest as well. And the thing is, and sometimes I kind of feel I kind of feel guilty that I was doing that for me. Do you know what I mean? I was doing
Yeah.
that, and everybody messages and they said like, "Oh, thank you so much. That those shows meant so much to me." And I kind of feel guilty because I'm like, well, you're welcome, but I was doing it for me.
Right. But
You know?
the thing is, you can feel good about other people appreciating what you do, even though
Oh,
you
hell
might
yeah,
create something with your own amusement in mind.
yeah. It's a
The
happy
fact that
outcome.
others could be amused as well is
Yeah,
very well. I mean, I guess it's both humbling, and at the same time, it makes you feel like you could do it more. Like
yeah, yeah,
empowering, I guess, is
yeah.
the word I'm looking
It's
for.
it's heartwarming as well. I think
Yeah.
it really is. It really is. And like after the shows, sometimes I'd end up staying and messaging with people. I think you and I, we the show finished, but we just carried on chatting. It's the
Yep.
same with Bobby Gustafson. I had him on, and it was just like absolutely hilarious. I mean, every time I said, "Oh, I've got another question about I've got another question about Overkill, Bobby," and he'd just go, "No." It's like, yeah. But yeah, it was great times, and I really appreciated you coming on, and so did everybody on the on the site. And look, I want to thank you coming on the podcast as
Oh,
well, and jumping on
it's
early,
always
which
a
was
pleasure.
awesome. And I know you're flying off to go gigging, and it's always a pleasure for me as well, mate. You're one of my favorite people to talk to, and I'm going to get you on a lot sooner. Maybe once a month.
Oh, wow. I'm getting a monthly slot, folks. Did you hear that? I better come up with some good material.
Well, look, man, congratulations on the album.
Well,
Everything you're
thank you so
doing. Give my
much.
love to the
Yeah,
boys. And,
I shall.
you take care, dude.
And same here. Give our best to your boys as well.
Will
And
do.
one of these days, you and I, we're going to do some shows together.
We are. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's a fact.
Yeah, because this is
Absolutely.
too much fun and we need to
Yeah,
make it last like at least 5 days, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. All right, man.
Excellent. Well, thanks,
Okay,
H.
dude.
It's really good to speak with you.
And you, mate.
Bye, everyone out there in TV land or computer land.
and
Bye now,
podcast land. See you
podcast
later.
land.
Cheers.
Bye.
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 Bye.